Hello, everybody. This is Sri from BizBuzz. What matters the most? Sponsored by MyWorkbelt. MyWorkbelt is a all-in-one software, particularly catering to service-based small businesses. If you have a filing cabinet, imagine the whole filing cabinet is disappeared, and all the data and documents, everything is in MyWorkbelt on cloud, and you can access them from anywhere. So think about that. Consider it using MyWorkbelt to manage your business. And today we have guest Craig Andrews. Craig Andrews is a principal ally at Allies for Me, and they are the masters of marketing. And if you have a high ticket, high trust items, it is very, very much possible. You have to work with them and then help you to get that into the market. Craig, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully, Sri. How about yourself?
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent. So, Craig, large companies, they always talk about culture, right? You take multi-billion dollars companies, the CEOs, they come on to the interviews, they always talk about culture. And C-suite executives, they come on to any shows or in any conferences, they all talk about culture. But very rarely we hear about culture in small business environment. Why do you think so?
It's a good question. Question. The There is a culture. You may just not realize it. There
Yes?
is a culture. But the with small businesses, I think a lot of times we're just so darn busy that we don't have time to slow down and say, okay, what is the culture that we're setting?
Right. So, what lessons learned from the most successful companies, right? So, small businesses, we are in our own world. But if you look at the large companies, they are very highly successful. Not that they became big overnight. They started small and they became successful. As they become successful, they're actually indirectly giving this formula for success to the market. But if we, as the small business owners, if we don't recognize those formulas, if we don't use those formulas, we are the fault why we are not successful, right?
Yeah, and it has to be, you have to take some time. I mean, I get it, we're all busy.
Yeah,
You need to take some time and step back and say, okay, what's going to be our culture and how do I make sure that this is going through? Because here's, I would say this, every company has a culture whether they intended to or not.
they
And the
do.
question is, what's the culture you created?
Correct. But again, the culture created, it is not that culture somebody created as one person. But certainly in small business environment, the culture is created by the founder of the organization,
Yeah.
right? And founder of the small business owner, business founder, and then the next level management team, whether it's a one person, two person, three people, next level management team. They are the key for creating the culture and having that culture go from top to bottom. Am I right?
Yep. Yeah. And it's interesting as you were talking, I was thinking about a company here in Austin that's doing just short of 2 billion in revenue.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
a
would
big
say
company.
that they're a big company, but the company has a culture, and it's been going for a long time, way before they were $1 billion in revenue,
Correct.
that if you were buddies with the CEO, if you went out drinking with the CEO, you were in. And so it wasn't the culture they built there wasn't that you would get promoted based on your skills. It would be, maybe that was a part of it, but it was your skills plus if you like drinking with the CEO.
That is so funny. But if you were to be talking about a small business, right, with 5 or 10 employees, you
You
don't
have the same
have to
thing.
go buddy with the owner. You're already buddy with the owner.
Well, but see, even I guess my point in bringing that up is even in the small companies, I've seen it where, if you're not careful, you can teach people, you can unintentionally teach people to not bring their voice to the table.
True.
So
So, the top level management, sometimes they do things consciously to propagate certain culture. Sometimes they do unconsciously things to propagate certain cultures. So, which is what you're talking about. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, so let's say it's a company of 10 people
Right.
and, let's say the head of sales is hanging out with the CEO all the time. Now,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a company of 10 people doesn't have a head of sales, head of marketing, but let's just pretend for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And things always go in the favor of the way of the head of sales, and the head of marketing realizes I either need to learn how to drink with the CEO
Or I have to leave.
or I have to leave. And what if you don't drink? I mean, there are people that don't drink,
I don't
or
drink.
or there are people that like myself, I drink, but in small quantities. I don't go out and get drunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so all of a sudden you've created a culture. You've created a culture where people will not raise their voice.
But
And
CEO may know, may not know, may realize, may not realize that's what the CEO is doing. How does a CEO can recognize what they are building? What is the kind of a culture they are propagating throughout the organization?
I would say that they look at the performance of the people in the organization as a mirror to seeing
Yeah,
themselves. And so if they see some behavior in the organization that they don't like, I think the first question they should ask is, did I play a role in creating this behavior?
correct. That
Did I
is a
create?
very scary question for a business owner, especially in a small business environment,
Yeah.
because
And,
you're standing right in front of the mirror and questioning yourself.
well, and one of the things I say, and I'll admit it's hard sometimes, when you're not, when I feel like I can't communicate, if I have some idea that I'm trying to communicate, there are times I get frustrated, but the thing that I try to keep my mind anchored in is it's my job to communicate. If I have failed, if they don't understand what I'm saying, that's not a them issue, that's a me issue.
Oh, 100% true. But very few people accepts that.
Yeah.
Now you don't understand is a very common phrase we all use as a human being. You don't
Yeah.
understand, right? So that's just very commonly we use. But how do we change that? What techniques that we can consciously use to change the culture in a way that the organization goes in a profitable mode or in a effective mode, efficient mode?
Well, and it's interesting. I would say that one thing when you're doing it, it feels counter to efficiency, counter to productivity, is you have to slow things down. You have to slow things down. So let's say, something when I have a when I have a new employee join, I have to spend some time and with them until they realize I really want their honest opinion. I didn't hire them
Of
to
course.
agree with me.
Right. That's correct.
But when they come in initially, they I see it again and again. They're afraid to speak up
That's
because
common for any newbie.
right. So I have to slow down in those times to say, look, I really want to know what you think. I
Right.
didn't hire you to agree with me.
To agree
As a
with
matter
me.
of fact, if you never disagree with me, it's really going to worry me.
That's true. Well,
And
that's the
so
culture you're presenting into the propagating into the organization.
so that's what I mean about slowing down. You have to slow down initially
Hmm.
to have that happen. Well, and let me give a example. I mean, this is the time of the year I call anniversary time. You know very well that 4 years ago I was in a coma. I
Right.
was on a ventilator and I was in a coma. And lady by the name of Libby was running my business for me.
Hmm.
And when I woke up from the coma and realized all that she had done, I realized that the work I had done 2 years prior to the coma set her up to do it. And it was hard. It took
Yes.
time and it was frustrating. So
Yes.
she used to tell clients things. She would say something to a client that she shouldn't. Maybe it was make a promise or miscommunicate something.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, Libby, you have to go fix that communication. She's like, well, I don't want to. And I was like, look, you're the one that made the communication. I'm going to be here. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. It will work out fine. I'll
Right.
coach you through this, but you're the one that has to correct it.
Yes.
And it was hard at the time. And it was time consuming.
Correct.
But 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago, she gets on the phone with all of our clients and she has the hardest client conversation she's ever had.
That's right.
And she has to say, hey, I need to tell you that Craig is in a coma and the doctors are expecting him to die. So, and through that time, we only lost one client. So she
Yeah.
held the hardest conversation, client
Correct.
conversation she ever did. But tying this back to the culture, it's a, I would say, as leaders of organizations, you have to take the time and you have to mentor the behavior that you want.
That's correct.
And and part of that behavior is the culture. And one of our values, one of the we own our mistakes as much as we own our victories. You
Indeed.
know,
Right.
and that's
So,
part of our culture, but it took time to build that.
yeah. So if I am summarizing it here in a 30 seconds, so the culture is whether you are a small, big, culture is there. You cannot change that. And the culture goes from top to bottom. So there is no other way around. And that is the reason the ownership in the small business have to slow down, take time to work with the next level employees to give them what is the culture and what is the behavior is expected, and how do you treat the customer, how do you treat the colleagues, how do you treat the rest of the people in the circle. And that is what the culture means, and that is how they can consciously make a decision what kind of a culture flows in the organization. Am I summarizing it right?
That's a great summary.
Excellent. Craig, thank you very much for joining us today. I greatly appreciate it. As always, I enjoy talking to you. And those who are listening, I hope you have taken some concepts here and that can be applied on your business for a betterment of your business. And always pleasure talking to you all, and hope to see you again in the next episode. Bye now.